Sorcery, multiplayer games, and the Great British Bake Off. This is Staying In. I've got a question to ask. A question.
Yeah.
Are you all ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Far away.
But Kris, you're going to have to sit out of this question because it involves you.
Okay.
All right. So take your chair away. That's it. Push away from the mic. I don't want to get involved.
Off he goes.
Right. So Pete and Dan.
Yes.
We're all by ourselves now.
Okay.
I want you to create a picture in your mind, a mind picture, if you can. It's a lovely evening. You're feeling a bit peckish. You go to the fridge and you've got some sausages in your fridge. Okay. Ooh, lovely. Yeah, everyone loves a bit of sausage. So my question to both of you is, how many of those sausages? It's just you in the house. How many of those sausages are you going to put on the grill?
How many are in the pack?
Oh, it's a sixer.
Are they? Oh, so they're not chipolatas. They're proper, full-on Lincolnshire.
Oh, proper sausage. And for you, Pete, an RSPCA man has gone round and gone, yep, that's a pig.
Good. As long as those animals were murdered ethically, I don't mind. Okay.
Am I having anything else with these sausages?
Broccoli.
Yep.
And brown rice.
What a fun meal.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Kris. Right, okay, yeah. So you got broccoli, you got brown rice, not the most, appetising of food couplets, but still you've got sausages.
I'm going to go in with an early bid, okay?
No, Dan. I don't want how many did Kris have. If that's what you're thinking I'm going for. I want how many will you have as a normal human being? How many would you have?
I think I would cook 4 sausages.
For yourself?
For myself. I potentially could cook the other 2, and that's mainly because otherwise I'm not really going to eat those other 2 because there's not enough for me. So I may cook them, and if I'm still hungry afterwards, I may have a sneaky other sausage.
You see, here's the thing. I'm sort of along those lines with Dan. Now, if Alex was around, then I would cook, as in if she was anywhere near the cooking, I would cook 3 for myself. If Alex wasn't around, I would cook 4 for myself. However, I probably would cook all 6 at the same time and keep, like, let's say 2 or 3 of them for a lunch, for a packed lunch, maybe. But I don't, I think if I'm trying to put a good face on things, I think I probably have a maximum of maybe 4 sausages.
You see, this question hasn't gone the way I thought, because I couldn't.
What?
Well, I'll explain the situation, right? So, Kris and I, the other evening, were getting ready to play Elder Scrolls Online. Kris, you can come back, by the way, now. That's it, come on. Roll back in. There he is. Oh. We were getting ready to play Elder Scrolls Online. And as we have to do nowadays, we were squeezing gaming time in between lifetime. So we were both preparing a meal. I had a chicken in the oven and Kris was preparing some sausages. And I heard Kris unwrapping these sausages. And I heard him say, it was something along the lines of, it's not that many. Might as well just do the whole pack. 6. That'll do, 6. And never in my life have I ever eaten 3 sausages and gone, I could eat another 3.
Yeah,
Never.
I don't think I could eat 6.
To be fair, just the other day I had sausage and mash. And I was on my way home, and my good lady wife had already put the food in for me. She wasn't going to have any, but she was put the sausage in the oven for me, so they're ready when I got home. So when I got home, I looked to see how many she'd put in, and she'd put an entire pack of 8 in. And I was
8?
like, "What are you doing? I can't eat 8 sausages." And she was like,
8 sausages?
"Yeah, but they're not going to get used otherwise." I was like, "If they're a pack of 8, I could have had 4 and put 4 in the freezer." But you know what? All said and done, you've cooked them now. Let's deal with
It's
it.
a challenge.
Let's see what we can do.
She eventually had 3, and I eventually had 5.
5
sausages?
You guys are eating too much sausage.
The 5th one was a stretch.
Dan, what kind of sausages are these? Are these like your Walls bangers, or are they actual like food?
They were actual food. I think they were. Cumberland.
Oh, very nice. A nice Cumberland. Yeah. No. I mean, and Kris, how much rice are we talking about here? Like, because I mean, we're talking about sausages here, but I'm assuming you didn't have a normal amount of human amount of rice and broccoli either.
I had like a whole cup full of rice.
Brown rice. Full of rice.
A cup full of rice.
And just
Kris, that's enough to feed a family of 8.
Chris,
8.
He's a growing boy.
You came over to mine the other day, and we had a cup full of rice between 4 of us.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. With rice, here's the thing with rice. With rice, however much you put into the cup, it's always going to be more than you actually need of rice, right? But a whole cup of it will last 4 months.
Well, that depends. If it was an espresso cup, then that's fine.
It was like a whiskey. It was like a whiskey tumbler of rice.
That's so much rice, Kris.
It was like a pint glass of rice. It was.
Hey, I ate the whole thing though.
I'm not doubting for a second that you ate that amount of rice. What I'm saying is that average human beings, that's A, that's too many sausages, and B, that's too much rice.
My dad says that I take after him, that he describes his physique as being like a racing snake. I'm a racing snake, son. Okay, Dad. What does that even mean?
Oh, it's a racing snake.
I didn't know you could
again.
race snakes.
Metal Gear Solid 6, Racing Snake. Join Snake in the open world of Formula 1 race cars.
I think I've always been a big eater, though. Like, as a kid, I remember, like, the rest of my family, when they'd finished their dinner and their leftovers, they'd just lift their plates up and just scrape it onto my plate.
The human bin.
Like automatically, just like, and we are done here. Let us feed the monster.
My God,
I've always eaten quite a lot. Yeah, Sam, you know that Tupperware box that you and your lovely partner borrowed off me?
No.
That used to be my lunchbox at school.
No, Chris, that. Oh,
it was a suitcase.
How big are we talking?
So we're talking that. Right, okay.
Kris, right.
I know. I don't even know how to describe this. Your average Amazon package?
Kris, it looks like something you'd transport small animals to the vets in.
My family used to have one of those, and we used to keep 3 whole loaves of bread in there. Like, that is massive, Kris. Jesus Christ, Kris.
That used to. I want to see the size of the bag you took to school. Like, if that was your lunchbox, wheeling a little case behind you.
It was mainly this and 2 straps. But no, yeah, I'd have as you know, as I said before, like 8 tuna sandwiches with ketchup, pack of raisins,
obviously,
one of those long sausage rolls, an apple, a big Mars bar, and a packet of crisps.
Seriously, Kris, I had a big appetite when I was young, but that is some like next level stuff.
I've never eaten that much food in my life. Never.
Oh my God.
Well, Pete, you and Sam have been playing Sorcery 4. What is Sorcery 4? I know nothing of this game.
I've heard you talk about it, and I'm worried that it's just going to be another card game like Magic, and it's going to make me fall asleep. So please tell me it's not.
It's not a card game, Dan. I can tell you that.
Okay.
Well, you've been playing most of it, haven't you, Sam? So you've been playing the iOS version. I've been playing the Steam version because we got sent some codes for it.
Mm-hmm. From the lovely people at Inkle. Inkle.
Oh.
Inkle, little star. How I wonder what you are.
Yeah. Keep going.
Oh, I was going to slip into my Brian Cox impression, but I thought, no, I'd leave it.
His Brian Cox impression, actually, with the risk of hyping it, is actually quite good.
Yeah, maybe I'll...
I like the fact that you really hyped it there by saying it's quite good.
Well, I said overhyped.
That is hyping,
overhyped.
though. So Inkle, a few years ago, started to convert Steve Jackson, not that Steve Jackson, but the other Steve Jackson's, Sorcery choose your own adventure novels into 4 games. So Sorcery ! Came out a few years ago. Then it's been followed up by 3 games since. And I jumped on it a while ago because I played Inkle's 80 Days, which is absolutely incredible. Like it's one of my favorite iOS games, and still, Chris, it's a game that you need to play because it's the most Kris game since the concept of Kris games were invented.
Have you not played 80 Days, Chris?
No, it looks gorgeous.
Oh, for goodness sake.
I know. I was going from...
I've not played 80 Days.
It looks beautiful. In fact, I'm going to look at it now on my phone and download it.
Right,
while you're talking about
Well,
it.
see if you can get it on your Surface, because it's better on your Surface because it is kind of like a interactive
It's
book.
Microsoft. It's probably not going to have it. I'll check anyway.
Have a quick look.
I'll have a gander.
Have a look.
So they made 80 Days, which is a wonderful travel log about Passepartout and Phileas Fogg trying to travel the world in 80 days. And so it was from then that I decided to pick up Sorcery. And really, at its base, Sorcery is a choose-your-own-adventure game that you control an avatar off around a really detailed 2D map, and basically you have tons and tons of adventures. There's a very competent combat system, a very competent magic and spells system. Not that magic, Dan, don't worry. And you weave your way through these stories and experiences, and the writing is some of the best writing I've ever experienced in a game, period. I was playing Sorcery 2 round Pete's quite recently, and there was just some interactions I had that I was in stitches. There was this one moment where I entered this town, and I noticed that it was like the dwarven quarter of this city. So one of my options was to either carry on walking through, say hello to a trader, or get down on my knees to make everyone else feel comfortable. So due to the beauty of the fact that all the Sorcery games, except for 4, which is something I'll get onto later, have basically a finger-in-book mechanic. So you can rewind any decision that you make, or rewind back to any decision that you make. So you can have as much fun and explore as much of the world and interactions as you wish without any fear of reprisals or injury. So you can essentially just test the water. And I was just like, what the hell? I got down on my knees and started walking through this village, only to be accosted by dwarves. And really, I didn't learn my lesson because I went around a corner and I saw these people who were like snake hybrids, and I got chatting to one of them, and he was just like, "Yes, my name's Stephen," and one of my options was to replicate his way of speaking. So I went, "Hi, Stephen. I hope you're well today," and he was with his mum, and his mum goes, "How dare you take the mick out of my son's lisp?" And then they walked off. So, like, Sorcery as a game, like all 4 games, are just filled with these really unexpected twists and turns in the way that the writing happens. Like, you never know what a conversational path or what an encounter is going to lead you down. Like in Sorcery 3, I was suddenly attacked by this massive scorpion that was bigger than me, and like your options are usually like attack, cast a spell, or wait. So I thought that I'll just wait and just see what happens. And the scorpion picked me up, put me on his back, and then like took me to another part of the story that I wouldn't have gotten to if I'd cast a spell on it, or if I'd attacked it. And every single one of the games is so intricately designed, and you've got this wonderful original Steve Jackson artwork from the original adventure books that go along with some of the encounters, and you just get the idea that this whole world has just been so beautifully designed, and it's wonderful to be a part of. And I messed up kind of when playing the first 2 games, because even though I knew that there was this finger in book mechanic, I never actually used it for the first 2 games because I wanted my experience to be what I thought was kind of complete.
Completely
like
linear.
I wanted it to be kind of like, well, those are the decisions that I took, those are the repercussions, and that's the adventure that I'm having. To a point where I ended the first game burning down the whole entire city and being cursed by a god. And you can carry on your saves across each title. So you can have the same adventure going through, and everything that happened in previous titles goes on to the next. So I started Sorcery 3 with like 2 stamina and no money, no rations, being taunted by this god who, whenever I took a step, would like tell me how I'm going to die, how I did a wrong thing by burning down this city, and that I'm worthless and I'm hopeless and I'm not the hero that's sent out for this quest. And literally I couldn't make it 2 steps without dying, and this god like laughing at me and getting his justice. So it was from that point on that I actually played this choose your own adventure game like a choose your own adventure game.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So in terms of the kind of the gameplay mechanics, what kind of game would you compare it to? In terms of, because obviously in terms of the writing and the way the narrative plays out is as you've explained. In terms of the mechanics of actually controlling your character and what you're doing on screen, what would you compare that to?
It's tough, really, because there's.
So I'm imagining something along the lines between like Bastion, but I'm assuming I'm probably coming at it from a wrong direction.
All you control is basically a figurine of your avatar. So you have like a hero or a heroine, and they're sort of like poised for action on top of like a round base, and then you have your map, which is kind of like a 2D map with some relief in the first 3 games, but in Sorcery it's like it's this massive 3D construction which looks incredible. And basically you enter the game, you get script which comes up the screen, and a really nice touch is when you say something or make an action, that gets like looped onto the bottom of the end of the script with string. So it's like this idea that you're adding and adding and adding and adding to this adventure as you're going. And so basically to move from one bit to another, you basically just drag your avatar and you make like a dotted line onto the next flag, basically. So the actual like animation and movement is very minimal, but
sounds a bit like a point and click.
Yeah, it is, but really, like, your avatar doesn't move. They're static.
Yeah,
avatar. They're a static just picture that moves from one bit to another, because it's not about.
Its imagery is very much conveyed in words. Like, you really have to have like an imagination to actually appreciate what it is that's going on there. Yeah, it's still a good-looking game, though. I don't. One of the things that I think is very challenging about talking about game book adaptations is that they're really easy to do, right? Because ultimately it's just words and then decisions. And for the longest time, digital adaptations of game books were very straightforward. Like, literally, here are some words, here are some options, choose the thing that you want to do, and that's it. Whereas when you about 4 or 5 years ago, when Inkle started doing its thing, when a couple of other different places were starting to come up and do their stuff, they were changing what the expectation was of a game book digital adaptation. And with Warlock on Firetop Mountain and now Sorcery 4, we start to see like almost the peak of that now, like the peak of what you can do within words being sort of essentially typed out on a page and then responses to them that you give. So I've been playing like Sorcery 4 on Steam, and I agree with you, Sam, in that I think that this is a tablet game. Like I liked the Steam. I liked playing it on PC, but I've played dabbled with the previous Sorcery games before on tablet, and I feel like the experience really lives there.
Yeah, you feel a lot more connected to the book element.
Yeah, something handheld.
Yeah.
That's absolutely it. So I've played a couple of hours of Sorcery 4, and I really enjoyed my time with it. Like, it feels like I didn't see as much humour as I saw in previous games. Like, they're not meant to be super funny. That's not their focus. They're not comedies. But this adventure felt very much, so far, a couple of hours in, does feel very much like, no, this is the end. Like, there's some really serious stuff that you need to deal with, and there is danger around every single corner. But that being said, like, I mean, the writing is just like top class again. Like that 3D visual map that you get is just fantastic.
The sound design is also a massive plus. It's really
so amazing.
It's really subtle and suggestive. It's part of the way that it helps create the world. So you walk into a market and you'll just get a really subtle sort of sound effects of a marketplace, or you walk by a fountain and you just get a little bit of trickling water. So it's really good. I think that if this is something that kind of takes your fancy, that starting at Sorcery 4 isn't the best way to go. I think that going back, the first Sorcery game takes about 2 hours to play, so it's really kind of putting your finger in the water, and you'll be able to, if you play Sorcery, the first one, and in those 2 hours which fly by, you go, this is something that I kind of want to stick with, then you know that you've got 3 more quality games down the line. And there's things, as you say, in Sorcery 4, because it is the final chapter, there is a lot of assumed knowledge that you kind of expected to have. So in Sorcery 3, you spend a lot of time learning what the counter spells are to the spells that you're learning. So in the Sorcery games, you're kind of a half wizard, half warrior.
Warrior, I guess, yeah.
There's always an option to attack. There's always an option to cast a spell, and by casting a spell, you use the current constellations of the stars that are around you, which is a great way of them being able to limit the spells. So you can't just use a spell that you want. You've got to use the spells that they give you at that moment, because that's the way the constellations are. And then you have like 3-letter combinations. So there's like hot, which creates a fireball. There's fog, which makes everything dark. And some of the spells are brilliant, like 6, where you make 6 versions of yourself. I had a fight with a boar statue that came to life, and I didn't know which spell to use, so I just used 6, and that got me out of it because it started attacking the 6 clones of me. And it was really well written, because it was something like the boar gets confused, attacks 6 versions of yourself, and suddenly there's 6 bodies of you laying about this floor. So if you're just going to Sorcery 4, there's quite a bit of knowledge about the spells and the counters that you kind of need. I kind of get the feeling with the game that's going to be the kind of the end game, is kind of like a Monkey Island type. You can only win if you know the correct rebuttal to what's coming up. So my advice would be, if this sounds like a game for you, then I think getting in on the ground floor is a great, easy way. It's not going to take up too much of your time, and you're going to know very quickly whether this is a game that you should love. And to be honest, like, I couldn't recommend these games highly enough. Like, it's the only money I've ever spent on a iOS game. I bought all the first 3 sorceries for like $9.99, and even though the first one's about...
you can get the I just had a little look, because you've kind of sold me on it. You can get the first 3 as a bundle for $9.99, and you can also get a 4-game bundle, which is 80 days, Sorcery 1, Sorcery 2, and then a Among the Dead Men, I think it's called.
Yeah, it's another game that they.
So that's 1049. Yeah. So that game, that's more of a kind of a look across all of the Inkle games. But I mean, I've not seen those before at all. This is literally the first I've heard of it. But it does sound. And looking at some of the images, the artwork looks absolutely stunning. So I'm very much interested in this.
And guys, you know what I'm like when it comes to mobile games. Like
Yeah, you love all of them. You love all the mobile games, don't you?
You do often say, if there's one thing you love, it's a good mobile game.
But on Android, they're 99p each. For
there you
1,
go.
2 and 3.
Banging.
I'd snap those up right now. And 2 and 3 and 4 are at least 6 to 8 hours long. So you get your money's worth.
What the fuck is Bake Off?
Great British Bake Off?
You've heard of that? Come on.
Pop culture, really your thing, isn't it, Pete?
You buck off.
You've heard of it. Come on. What do you think Bake Off is? Right, Pete, there's a programme called The Great British Bake Off.
Yeah.
Pitch it to me. What happens?
I think I know this. So there's an old woman.
Yes.
And she gets lots of her celebrity friends in, and they have to bake like really nice cakes and cookies and other baked goods, and then that's on TV. And I think Anton Decker involved in some way.
Impressive. That is some impressive knowledge, Pete. It really is.
If Channel 4 are wondering how to revamp the format, I think they just got it.
I think Pete was just basically flicking through the channels, and they all just amalgamated into one show.
He saw an old woman, he saw baking, and he saw Anton Deck.
Tedious suburban bullshit. I think it's something to do with that, and it's a very. I understand it's like a very British thing. Like it's seen as like part of British culture.
Well, it is called the Great British Bake Off.
Well, I suppose so, but it's seen as very like I guess it is sort of not patriotic, but it is very. When you think of England, you do think of moist tea towels over the top of cucumber sandwiches to keep them cool in the middle of a summer, and then like a nice picnic out in the garden. You do think of that sort of stuff, and I guess baking kind of goes into that. Some woman, I don't know. I think it's something to do with that and an old lady, and she judges them. It's like that, but it's like what was not Through the Keyhole? What was the other one that was MasterChef? When MasterChef was on,
they're basically the same show.
Yeah.
MasterChef and Through the Keyhole.
But like it's like MasterChef, but for Victoria Sponges.
That almost felt like I'd ask like a medium that question, and they were like, talking about contacting the dead. Just like I'm getting an old woman in a tent. 2 Geordie presenters
and celebrities and baking
and a croissant.
Yeah.
Say enough vague comments, and you'll eventually sound like you know what you're talking about.
I mean, I'm right though, right?
No.
There's an old lady, yes. Outside of that, you're wrong.
Great British Bake Off, Peter, is the only reality television show I will watch. It's basically a show where, although technically it's a competition, I wouldn't describe it as overly competitive. There's no kind of trash talk between people. It's kind of collaborative.
There's no trash talk. Your sausage rolls are shit. Like, what do you mean no trash talk?
I would pay money to have Pete on the Great British Bake Off.
We wouldn't even know what it is. You wouldn't know even how to prepare. But basically, Pete, what happens each week is, speaking to the only person probably in the UK who needs this explaining, it's a competition. There are 3 rounds, amateur bakers. So there's not celebrities, it's amateur bakers. Although there has been a celebrity bake-off, like charity and comic relief and things. Basically, they're amateur bakers from all over the UK, various different backgrounds, and they are basically competing each week to become the winner. And each week, one of them is kicked out of the competition. And there are 3 rounds every week. The first round is it a signature bake, where they're given a particular theme and they have to make a bake that has their own personal twist on it, their own signature.
What is the... Hold on. Theme. Surely the theme is cake.
No. Baking, actually, Pete, believe it or not, extends beyond cake.
It's not just Victoria Sponges.
All right, yeah, sure, but the theme is like make a cake or make a biscuit. Surely it's not like theme is like Halloween.
Yeah, okay. Well, what type of biscuit?
Yeah, biscotti.
Oh, do they go
shortbread.
that far? Oh, right, okay.
I mean, think about when you go to a restaurant, Peter, and you look at the menu. It doesn't just say,
Biscuits,
meat, vegetables, drink.
Yeah,
I'll have
You
one
ever
drink.
been in a cake shop and seen the huge variety of pastries and cakes on offer?
cake shop. Sorry, Dan. Is that in your neighbourhood? Is that just down from the candlestick maker
And the baker.
from the sort of shoe shine,
The butcher.
cake shop?
I mean, I think Dan, what my name is patissiere. Oh, patisserie,
right.
sorry.
I think you're saying more things now, which are just going over Pete's head.
Yeah, when Pete got thrown by the words cake shop, I think we should have left it there.
Pete, they bake stuff, and then it's judged. And you learn a lot about baking, you learn about the heritage of it, and it's really interesting, and it's lovely. And you see, as you say, Pete, there is a kind of a cuddly, kind of quintessentially English quality to it that people have kind of fallen in love with.
Pastel colours.
Yeah.
Light-hearted bunting all around.
It sounds like there's a live orchestra in the tent with them. And yes, it's in a tent. It's like a marquee. That's what they bake in. But the reason I want to talk about it is that basically the rights of it have been lost, and it's been bought by Channel 4. So from next season onwards, it's going to be Channel 4's baby.
Well, the new season wouldn't come out until 2018.
Right.
So is that going to be problematic? Because I thought Ant and Dec were like BBC.
It's not Ant and Dec, Pete. It's Mel and Sue. Sue Perkins, Mel Giedroyc, from who did had a 90s kind of comic double act together.
Mel and Sue.
Oh,
They aren't the people that did Let's Get Ready to Rumble.
right. Okay. All right.
So that's Bake Off. I love it. It's one of the reasons why I bought my TV license, because I don't actually have a live TV. I watch everything streamed, but now I have to buy a TV license. And the two reasons I bought a TV license for the BBC are Bake Off and Sherlock, although there are some fantastic documentaries as well that I quite like.
So, okay.
And
So that's
Bake
gone
Off's
to Channel
gone.
4 now,
Yeah.
and everyone's upset?
Yeah, everyone.
Yeah.
People are upset because it was seen as it was a show that was nurtured by, although it was produced by a third-party production company, it was seen as being nurtured and created by the BBC. And so for it to then be taken away from the BBC, the BBC wanted to keep it, but they couldn't afford it. There was controversy because people see it as a BBC product that only the BBC would have created it. That's the idea, and that's why there's been a lot of kind of I wouldn't say controversy, but kind of unhappiness around its movement.
The nation is in mourning.
Okay, so I've got a few questions.
Go on.
One, do pies come under the remit?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, fruit and meat?
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe not together.
Okay.
Well, say in the signature bake, they might be.
Can I just say? After all the conversation about what the whole show is, Pete's gone straight back to this. Now, let me just establish what's baking.
But actually, Chris, have you never had a pork pie with a apple topping?
That's very true, Sam, actually. Yeah, actually, the sausages I ate for dinner the other day had apple in them.
Well, there we go. All 6 of them.
Cool.
So
a bushel.
Could part your 5 a day with that.
I feel like we're spending too much time on something that people are going to know a lot about, considering episodes get like 10 million views.
I don't know. Is this... So this... Oh, right. So this is popular. This is like a fairly popular thing.
Fairly, it's number one, basically, every week.
It's basically the number one show.
And it's been going for years. But
Years? Really?
I think we're in the 7th series now.
Something
So,
like that.
so can I just like get on like DVD or something, or like Netflix or
Netflix. Well, you can
know, like-
binge watch Bake Off. You can.
is it like a storyline?
What? It's not
It's
a
a,
soap
competi-
opera.
it's a competition. It's not a
Harry.
narrative.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, but
real
there's a whole
life.
bunch of there's a whole bunch of like different like documentaries out there that are like mockumentaries, right?
It's not like making a murderer.
no, but
It's not fiction.
No, but there's a whole bunch of mockumentary stuff out in the States where there's sort of vaguely like the Kim Kardashian. I think that's her name. She's famous for a butt. I think, I don't know. She's got like a TV series where they follow her around and it's her real life, but it's like an enhanced version of her real life, and they'll like give her scripts.
I can honestly say, Pete, that the Great British Bake Off is not the same as Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
So there's no like storyline, like the old woman's not, I don't know, like dying and trying to get
this old woman. Can I just say this old woman has a name? Her name's Mary Berry, and she is
Mary Berry.
She has prestige, she has background. She's a very experienced baker. She trained as a pâtissière in Paris when she was younger. She's extraordinary.
Right. Yeah.
And her colleague, Paul Hollywood, is a very experienced baker as well.
Paul Hollywood?
Yes.
Wasn't he a wrestler?
Are you thinking of Hollywood Hulk Hogan?
That's what I'm thinking.
Oh my word. Have you hit your head today or something?
If it's that popular, maybe it'll be like at my local pub and they'll have it on the TV or something.
Now showing Manchester United versus Northampton, followed by Great British Bake Off.
on a big flat screen.
The only thing less likely than Pete going down to his local pub is for him to go down to the local pub to watch the Great British Bake Off.
Such a middle-class pursuit.
I don't know. You've been sending pictures to us of your Batcave, which I'm phrasing. Your office space invite. So what is it like? Is it just for work, or is there play there as well, or is it just audio stuff? Or
it's kind of, because over the past 9 months I've been moving house. We've been doing up our house that we're in now, and living elsewhere, which has been okay, but we're finally in and set up, and so of course this was the first room that I set up,
obviously.
and it just so happens, Pete, that over the years I've accrued quite a lot of Batman paraphernalia.
Oh, that surprises me.
Yeah, so when it was my birthday, we went to Comic-Con in Liverpool, and I've got 3 vintage Batman comics all up in a line above me here. It's The Untold Legend of the Batman, and basically it's someone's learned all of Batman's secrets and he's using them to destroy Batman, and it's spread over 3 issues, and the conclusion of which is that spoilers, but they're framed so you're never going to read them, is that due to a strong...
That's not the reason I'll never read them.
Due to a strong warehouse blast, Bruce Wayne has become a paranoid schizophrenic, and the person he thinks is after him and has found out all of his secrets is actually himself, and he beats himself by just basically going, just get over it, Bruce, and then he goes, well, I'll recover from that now. Done.
Brilliant.
So they're...
Very frameable.
Yeah. I kind of want this to be a bit of a playroom. I've got a PS2 set up in here. You can just see it over my shoulder. But I've only got one PS2 game, which is Shadow of the Colossus. So
I was promised the PS2 room, and I've never played Shadow of the Colossus, so it makes sense for that.
So
to be
Dan,
my
why
room.
didn't you travel the 200 miles to my house and then sit in a room on your own for a weekend and play Shadow of the Colossus? But it is nice to finally have like a space. And, so all my comics are in here, all my DVDs. Well, actually, I've only got 5 DVDs now. So,
because I think when you're like a bachelor, like it's really tempting to go ahead and be like, I'm going to have all of my games behind a big bookcase and stuff, and like in the living room, and I'm going to have all my comic books everywhere. Well, inside the bookcase. I don't know. How
you have to pull the lever.
yeah. It's a proper like bachelor pad. But I'm going to have all of my fun models and stuff out on display, and all my cards are over here, and all that sort of stuff. And you realise that actually no, it's a bit overwhelming, and when you get your own little room. Like, so I've got my office here that at some point Alex and I are going to share, but it's a space where we can do our own stuff. Like, we can work on our own things. Like, she's going to work on art in here, and I'll be working on like audio stuff, and I guess I don't know, just
you'll be exercising. You'll be on an exercise bike.
Exercise bike, all that sort of stuff. Like, it's nice to be able to put, okay, this is where all of the geek stuff lives, and then the front room is not just wall-to-wall, comic books and board games and all that sort of stuff, which are all lovely, but you just think to yourself, do I want that framed picture of Captain Riker from Star Trek? Do I want that front and centre above my fireplace?
No,
I don't know. I don't think you do.
You don't. No, it's good. It's nice, and I've even taken the extra step of keeping all my PS4 games upstairs, even though my PS4's downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a massive effort.
But do you keep your current rotation? Do you keep them next to the console?
I've got one in there. I've got one case down by the TV, so that's technically 2 games because one can sit in the console and one sits in the case.
That's all you need.
That kind of like gives the living room a bit of edge. It's just like, this is a nice living room. It's well decorated. PS4 game on the counter there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when people you don't know come over, like maybe some friends of a partner or something like that, it's always like, I see you're into your games then. And it's like a fun conversation rather than like a wall full of games where it's like, I see you're into your games then. And it's like... it's
a shame the game at the moment, Resident Evil 6, but...
Yeah. I see you're into your mediocre quality games.
Hey, but no, but there's a reason. There's a reason because Kris and I have been searching for a game to play together for a while, and we have picked Resident Evil 6 because it's impossible to find a co-op campaign game for 2 people to enjoy, and until the Dead Space collection comes out, then we're pretty much screwed. So,
well, until they do that HD remake of 50 Cent's Blood on the Sand, I think we're all...
that'd be lovely.
Lost Planet 2.
That would be lovely.
Mm.
Lost Planet 2 HD would be amazing. It's weird, isn't it? Like, it's not a lot of co-op stuff at the moment, because I was looking for a whole bunch of different co-op experiences. And obviously Dan and I, collectively, we've all started playing Elder Scrolls Online, and Dan and I were playing it the other day. And, that's a really good, fun experience, and, it's good to get into co-op and stuff. It doesn't quite feel like weirdly, it doesn't quite feel like at the point that we're at, it's actually built for co-op. I hope that will actually change.
For an MMO, it's very individual.
Here's your experience. I get the feeling that that'll probably change when like group quests come in, because I can't imagine a designer would go, multiple people. So there's that. And then like there's the odd racing game and stuff. But in terms of actual co-op sitting through things, you either end up with... There's just not a lot. It's like Diablo or... maybe Overwatch, but even that's like co-op competitive. Like you're still you're with your friends playing other people, and it's like...
That's the thing, because Kris and I invariably are sort of, I don't know why, but we tend to, find an hour or two more regularly than, I get to play with Kris more than any of you guys, not for preference.
Yeah.
But it just happens.
Well, clearly.
Yeah. So we've kind of dabbled in a few things, like we played Siege to Death and Helldivers. It's just a shame that Chariot isn't like online co-op play.
Sam, if there was any lag though, talking over like the conversation, it's such a fragile game. It's an incredibly fun couch co-op game, and I quite like that it is one of the very few good couch co-op games out there currently.
What is it?
Well, you want to describe it, Sam?
Okay, I'll describe it. Basically, Chariot is it's a multiplayer game where you can play it single player, but God knows how. It's you can only play it couch co-op, and basically you are a grieving princess who, along with their prince-to-be, are carting the chariot of your dead father through the underworld. And the premise of the game is that each of you's characters have a leash or a tether to each end of the chariot. So the chariot's got wheels on it and the coffin's in the middle. And this is all like a cartoony world. It's not that oppressively dark. And so basically one of you is on the front of the chariot and you pulling it while the other one sort of hangs back. And basically, the chariot is your platform for the platforming sections. So in order to get somewhere, you've got to drag the platform. You've got to drag the chariot from platform to platform, like tethering it, unhooking it, jumping on it, jumping off, then tethering it, then pulling it up whilst pulling up your partner, and then you've got to then like use that chariot to then move up onto the next platform. So it's kind of this really intricate sort of 2D platforming game where you're always taking your platform around with you. And then there's some brilliant moments, like sometimes the chariot will just roll away, and at the last minute you'll just tether onto it and you'll just be like dangling off a cliff like a Bruce Willis action movie, like just holding on, and me and Kris will just be breathless, like going or just like what's it we always say, Kris?
Anchored.
You've got to anchor yourself to make sure you don't slip away with the anchor. And
I love it when Sam gets stressed because the pitch of his voice just rises. Kris, hold on.
But it's a tough game to describe, but it's just one of those games that, because you're forced to sit next to the person that you're playing it with, it's really tense and engaging, and it's brilliant.
The level maps are a lot like Spelunky, aren't they, in terms of their level design, but you can't see the whole of it. You can kind of look at a map vaguely, but you're kind of just feeling around in places. And it's lovely to kind of be, as you say, Sam, be sat next to that person and kind of problem solve, map your route. Okay, so you're going to have to go up there, then you're going to have to swing the chariot across to me, and I'll have to catch it. And having these really interesting back and forth kind of conversations. And the game has got like a nice wry sense of humour. And also, your father, although he's dead in this coffin, you get the ghost of him, and he comments, if you're bashing him around too much, he kind of complains. And the coffin will get attacked by various kind of cartoony kind of bats and creatures, and you have to fend them off while you're holding onto this coffin that is dangling above a precipice. It's really lovely, actually. It's a really nice problem-solving kind of couch co-op game, really. We've played Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris. We completed that.
Oh, brilliant.
That's finished now, yeah?
Yeah. We got 70% of the trophies after completing that, which shows you what a quality title it was. And that game was heading for a 4 out of 10, right? That game was heading for a 4 out of 10. It was pretty awful. Until,
it's not great.
Spoilers, right at the end of it, turned into a massive Power Rangers fight between two Egyptian gods and a giant crocodile.
And we're running between their legs, basically, fending off everyone else.
It was
crazy.
It was absolutely fun. Shoots up to a 6 out of 10. It was brilliant. And that to me is like, that is the perfect sort of equation for a multiplayer experience. That it is a game that's of a certain level of quality, like almost not too good a quality, like hovering around that 5 or 7 out of 10, but the person you're playing with is like a 10 out of 10, if that kind of makes sense. Because
that
for me, like a good multiplayer game, if it's like Siege is a game that I'd probably give, like, you'd probably give about 7, maybe 8 out of 10 for.
Yeah.
But because it's so high in quality, for me it gets kind of repetitive and boring's not the word, but a bit dull,
monotonous
after a while.
I think there's this weird thing of, it's easier to enjoy games with friends when you're not actually quite as invested.
Yeah.
And I think games can do that in multiple ways. You can do things like, for example, Skate, which I think is like a 9 out of 10 game, or an 8 out of 10, some of them. But you're not invested so much because there's no like score attack. You're not doing you never play the competitions. It's just hang out, do a grind a rail, flip a trick, whatever you want to do. So you're not invested in that capacity. So games can either be like, well, let's just have fun and roll around and do whatever, or they can be a little bit naff, so that you come out of the experience enough to go, haha, this is dumb, or like, this writing's awful, or this game mechanic is really not good, or here's a really easy way to break the game and make it horrible for other people to play it. Yeah. And then have that fun experience of like breaking the game together and enjoying it. And like, I don't know, like I kind of feel like
I've had better multiplayer experiences with what you would call like lower ranked games than I have with higher ranked ones. I can only think of a couple, like when Dan and I played Portal 2 together. that was a great, that was great, really well made multiplayer experience. I think it was heightened by the fact that we were in the same room playing it at the time.
But it's also a game that gives you time to step away from the gameplay. It like goes, okay, and here's a little bit of storytelling, and right now you're stuck in a room, go figure it out, and we'll come back to you when you figure this sort of stuff out. So it's like you're still engaged with it, but it's not that constant like Call of Duty, like now go here, now go here, now go here. Like it's that like, okay, just go and explore for a little bit, and then we'll come back and finish the rest of the story when you're ready.
But I think in certain games that are quite high level, I mean, some of the best kind of multiplayer experiences I've had of late, in terms of the games that I currently have on rotation, and I know, Sam, you're not a big fan, but some of the times I've played, say, GTA 5 with you, Pete, or with Chris, and we've just kind of done a bit of nonsense and just ran around the city working things out and been crying with laughter because we've done stupid stuff. And when we've all played together, we've been laughing and joking because it's our personalities that we're putting into it. We're enjoying this world that the game has created, but it's us. And with the fact that none of us are particularly proficient in some of these games makes it better. The fact that we're all a little bit rubbish, but we're rubbish together.
When we did the stunt racing, me and you, Dan, and I stupidly accidentally didn't select a vehicle, and they gave me a Vespa scooter, and
which couldn't physically get around the course.
I couldn't actually get up a hill. I was stuck on this hill, basically on a hairdryer, essentially, getting lapped by everyone else on the internet.
I completely agree with you, and I think that a large portion of finding a multiplayer game that suits you is definitely around the friends that you have. But the problem I have with Grand Theft Auto is that there are just too many players out there who want to make their own fun by harming yours. So Chris and I did some stunt racing, and we're all having a fun time until 5 or 6 players got bored and just started blocking the road. So we just couldn't do anything from at that point anymore. And it becomes to that point where I'm just like, I'm just not picking this game up again now, because I don't want to take that risk that I'm having fun and then someone comes along and ruins it just because they're tired of it. So I'd much rather play a game that is not going to attract that kind of attention.
Yeah.
I think the point you make, where you say kind of what makes the multiplayer experience isn't all about the game. It's about the people you play with. So, for example, I'd probably say we'd all probably agree one of the best co-op games we've ever played is Lost Planet 2, which was a game that really, really didn't do well critically. When it came out, it wasn't particularly well received. And yet we tried it, and it was just phenomenal. And we were like, how is this not Game of the Year? This is just the best co-op experience we've ever had. And it had grappling hooks for Chris.
It's true, but it's like Borderlands, right? Like I can't imagine. I tried to play a bit of Borderlands 2, and I really enjoyed like when we played through the original Borderlands. I mean, we rinsed that game; it was great. Like, really, really enjoyed it. And then I started playing Borderlands 2, and it felt exactly the same in terms of like, you know, the ludology of it, like actually like sitting and playing and like clicking and playing it with a controller or whatever it is, like the actual firing. In fact, I think it kind of felt a little bit better in Borderlands 2 than it did in Borderlands. But because we weren't playing together, it was like, I'm not going to sit here and do 40 hours of slightly tedious FPS RPG. Like, that's just not what I'm after. Like, but with pals, it was like, you get into situations that you wouldn't normally get into, like, walking into a cave, and then your 2 or 3 members are sort of on the outside, and then somebody running back, and then like them being just chased by lots and lots and lots of big bad guys. Like, that is hilarious, and that builds into the game and builds into the fun of that world. But just playing it single player is like you would have just walked into the cave and got killed. Like, it's just
but you're right, Pete. It's about seeing each other. It's about being seen by your mates doing that and talking about it. It's not. There's something quite alien and cold about me doing something funny in a game by myself and then sharing it and sending it to you guys to watch. It's about the moment, the kind of ephemerality of that, really, the lived experience.
And that's why I think that a game that scores poorly, a game that's sort of quote unquote objectively bad, provides a better multiplayer gaming experience because it allows you to create those stories. There's more room for those stories to be created. However, when you're playing GTA and stuff like that, yeah, it's a laugh and, things happen, but the world, you're fighting against a world that has been so perfectly crafted to push you into a certain direction for your experiences that I feel like those stories haven't got a place to grow. Like when we played Rainbow Six Siege, we had a great time, and Dan, as usual, ended up locked himself out of a room that we were trying to defend.
He fell out of the room.
I still don't quite know how I managed to do that.
And that was brilliant, and that was great, but, we lost the game, we got decimated, and it was kind of like, well, all that hard work was... Yeah, we got a laugh out of it, but what we've actually achieved, whereas you'd feel like you get away with that a bit more in a game that was a bit poorly made.
So are we going to be playing the Uncharted 4 co-op then?
Yeah.
Multiplayer co-op? Because that is,
We did play the Uncharted 2 co-op, and that we really enjoyed that.
A lot.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
But what about the 4th? I've not really heard much rumblings about it.
I mean, I don't think we ever played really the third one, but I think what is quite telling is the fact that all the multiplayer experiences we're talking about are cooperative. And so much of multiplayer is deathmatch. It's competitive. And none of us really have ever been interested in competitive multiplayer. We've never, regardless of what game we've played, we may have occasionally gone in for the odd game of competitive multiplayer, but by and large, we've always been attracted to the cooperative.
I was pretty into Capcom SNK 2, like 2D fighters. You kind of have to be on that side of things, and I really like, and I'm still really enjoying Rocket League.
I think what Dan's saying though is kind of as a group, like if we were all to meet online, we wouldn't all go and sit and watch you playing a 2D fighting game, would we? No,
and like all four of us, like it wouldn't be like, oh, I want us to go and play one-on-one deathmatch in Quake or whatever. It's not, that to us is like, well, what's the point? Because ultimately you end up finding out who's the best, and that's it. Like,
but
it's like
when all four of us have played FIFA, we've all been on the same team.
Yeah.
If it's just two of us, then we might go one-on-one. But if it's four of us playing, we go on the same team. We do terribly, but we play together as opposed to against each other.
We did win the World Cup, Dan. Remember that?
We did win the World Cup.
We have won the World Cup before. So
what about there's also Minecraft as well. We played that for a few months, and we did that collectively. We built this kind of space for ourselves, and if any one of us went off, exploring, one of us would always go with them, or we'd all go together collectively,
holding hands.
But I think that really is. This is really more of a reflection of who we are as people, right? We're more people who have, through whatever means, like become like, we are interested in collaboration. We are interested in improvisation. We are interested in like comedy rather than competing, rather than
knowing who's the best.
Yeah, seeing who's the best out of all of these things. Like, we always push one another on, but it's not a case of. But we don't do it through like trying to figure out who's the best at backgammon. Like, it's not like on and on and on and on, like game after game after game after game, like up your game. Otherwise, like, what's the point of doing it? Because at some point there is a clear victor and everybody else just isn't winning, and then it's like, who cares? There's a lot of books for Bake Off.
They make a lot of recipe books.
Are you looking for the screenplay?
Yeah, there's Celebrity Face Mask Kit, Mary Berry. It's her. Yeah. Oh, is that Thingy Robin? Are you sure he's not a wrestler?
Yes, I'm sure that Paul Hollywood isn't a wrestler.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
that would have come up by now.
I'm pretty sure he's a wrestler.
Hang on, let me just check. Lisa, is Paul Hollywood a wrestler? Oh, Lisa said she doesn't know. That doesn't. Pardon? He likes cars a lot, which is, if you're a wrestler, one of the main important things about being a wrestler, I guess.
You might be thinking of Hollywood Hulk Hogan, or you might be thinking of Paul Heyman.
Well, I think I'm getting Paul Heyman and Hollywood Hulk Hogan mixed up together.
Oh, it's obvious they are synonymous. You're right, Pete.
It's a little known fact that the Great British Bake Off is a spin-off from WWE. It's a very little known fact.
I'm going to put you through this table, but I'm going to take off the nice crockery first.
But before I do that, here, have a scone.
Incomplete bakes and other incidents. This is a Wikipedia entry for the Great British Bake Off. In Series 3, John Waite was unable to complete his bake after he suffered a severe cut to his finger on the food processor. He tried to continue working on his strudel wearing a rubber glove, but the bleeding required medical attention, and he therefore had to abandon the last bake. As a result, no one was eliminated that week.
Yeah. Hang on, can I just say, that's the pinnacle of kind of high intense pressure.
Well, now Dan, you say that,
that's
but it seems
drama.
Like in series. It seems like in Series 4 the scriptwriters went one better on you. Contestant Deborah accidentally used Howard's custard instead of her own. As a result, Howard was forced to use Deborah's custard, and this was taken into account by the judges.
Oh, you wait till you get to Ice Cream Gate.
Yeah, oh gosh, yeah.
To Baked Alaska.
Okay. Well, no. In Series 5, during the Baked Alaska challenge, Ian Waters' ice cream melted for reasons that were not entirely clear. Now, my editorial on this, I imagine it got too hot. There we are. Although the editing of the show suggested that it had been caused by another contestant's actions. He threw his ice cream into the bin in frustration and left the tent. He returned shortly after and he had no cake for judging. He produced his bin instead, and the incident was labelled Bingate.
That
he was eliminated from the competition.
Literally made the news.
It did.
Yeah.
I've got a quote from Paul Hollywood from an interview from the Telegraph.
Yeah, go on. Well, hold on, wait. Was it? What was it like? I'm going to take you down, Randy.
No, this is a quote. Paul Hollywood is interviewed in the Telegraph, and the question they'd kind of pitched to him was, "Why is Bake Off so successful?" Because it kind of came from nowhere. The success.
Yeah.
This is what Paul Hollywood says in the Telegraph. It shouldn't work, but it does because of the different cogs. Take one cog out, and it won't work. Its beauty is its nostalgia. You're looking back on something your parents or grandparents baked when you were a kid. My big thing was ice buns. My dad bringing back ice buns from the bakery. Then there was the Saturday afternoon when I was 8 or 9. Wrestling was on the telly. Big Daddy versus Giant Haystacks. Just before Football Focus.
Well, there we go.
There it is.
You were actually
That's
right.
where it is.
Well,
Yep.
no, he wasn't
He was
a wrestler.
He was a wrestler.
Wrestling. That's not the same thing.
He was a wrestler.
That was Staying In with Kris Darby, Daniel Frost, Sam Turner and Peter Willington. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and do please help us spread the word about the show. Visit stayingin.podbean.com for more information and links to, well, whatever we've covered in this episode. Thanks very much for listening.